Knives Out is directed by Rian Johnson, written by Rian Johnson, and it stars an incredible cast with Daniel Craig, Chris Evans, Ana de Armas, Christopher Plummer, Jamie Lee Curtis, Michael Shannon, and Catherine Langford, along with a whole lot more wonderful actors and actresses. This is a mystery film and a whodunit, so you need a cast that's very large to make sure that the audience is always kept guessing about who did what, when, and how, all that good mystery stuff. Now, let's talk about the obvious part of this whole thing, which is Rian Johnson. Rian Johnson, I have a bit of a mixed relationship with because the only movies of his I have seen are Looper and The Last Jedi. Looper was a film that was kind of cool. Had Joseph Gordon-Levitt in it. Bruce Willis was in it. It was a cool sci-fi film with a couple of cool ideas. I liked it for the most part. It was fine. It was different, and that was neat. I liked the novelty of it. The Last Jedi was also different, but it was different in a very bad way that made Star Wars feel less good and made it feel less enjoyable to me. That film really kind of made me not like Star Wars anymore, and that's sad. So in terms of Rian Johnson, I was not a big fan. And so I skipped out on Knives Out until just now because I saw it was by Rian Johnson and I just kind of discounted it, whatever. But I heard it was good. I talked to some friends. They said it was good. And I was like, okay, let's give it a shot. Let's see what happens. Now, Rian Johnson, for good or bad, I think has an ethos as a filmmaker and an artist to chase the novel and the new and the different and to give audiences something they weren't expecting and they weren't prepared for. And he revels in that style of filmmaking. That is his artistic conceit. That's what he is going after. And for a standalone movie like Looper, it's fine. It works totally fine. For Star Wars, it just breaks it. It ruins it because Star Wars was based on a very classical story archetype. And when you break it, it breaks the whole thing. But when you get to mysteries, it gets really interesting because mysteries are great, but the format has gotten old. It's gotten tired. And the one thing that Rian Johnson really plays with in this movie is the format. So in the movie, there's a murder. And the whole movie is based around figuring out who did the murder. And so it really threw me for a loop when half an hour into the movie, we're given explicit details and told how the murder happened. I was just sort of going like, wait, what? And then we meet the big detective who's trying to solve the murder, and we're like, oh, well, this kind of takes the tension out of it. I mean, if we know how the murder happened, where's this story going? I was genuinely confused. I was like, wait, if we know how the murder happened, so why is there an hour of this movie left? Like, what's going on? And for a while throughout the second act, I was just sort of sitting there going, okay, stuff's happening, things are happening. What is going on here? And then you suddenly realize that even though we saw the events that happened, they weren't as clear, cut and dry as we would have expected. And there's enough twists and enough turns that go in unexpected directions to really keep us on our toes until the very end. In terms of performances and characters and actors, I mean, we have a list of actors that is very long, which I rattled off already, and the performances from everybody are great. Jamie Lee Curtis is doing a wonderful job as the family matriarch and the older sister to everybody. That's great. Michael Shannon does a really great job as the kind of alcoholic little brother character, adult little brother character. It's very believable. It makes total sense. It just every character in the film just feels right, but it feels slightly larger than life, which is exactly what you want in a film like this. The cinematography in this film is really good because it's a talking head picture. It's just a lot of people talking and having conversations and trying to sort out what happened, asking questions, a lot of detective-y type stuff going on. But this film does a tremendous job of keeping things interesting, keeping things moving, and breaking up the pace of the flow of conversations to make it really engaging, not only mentally and psychologically as we're watching the characters interact with each other, but visually. There's some really great transitions. There was one that I loved, which was somebody in one scene threw a baseball out a window, and it cuts to the baseball as it's falling onto the ground and bouncing across the grass, and you see people, as it's rolling across the grass, you see people walk up and pick up the baseball and then keep walking as it follows the baseball across the scene. And so just some really smart filmmaking on display here and some really cool set design as well. I think this house, this whole film takes place in this big manor type house, and it's like this weird, kind of 1980s ish horror film aesthetic, and like it's got this kitschy collection of like statues and masks, and it's like the prop department just went nuts. Then it just feels like a place I would want to go to and just wander around for a day and just experience. And so it just draws you in a really magical way, and I really love it. The set design is so cool. This film is incredible. It's really smartly written. It's got some wonderful characters. It's got great set design. It's just, man, it redesigns the format of what a mystery film is. Like, even if you're not huge into mystery films, I think people would enjoy this film just for the characters and the designs alone. So my final recommendation for Knives Out is a 10 out of 10. I loved this movie. I absolutely adored this movie on almost every front. There is very little criticism I have against the film. It was just a complete joy to watch. I recommend everybody see this one when they can. It's still in theaters right now, so it's almost out of theaters. It's a few more days it'll be gone, but if you get the chance to see it in theaters, I highly recommend it. If you can't, it's still going to be a heck of a ride when you rent it or stream it or whatever you do with it, but it's definitely worth a watch. All right, well, thank you guys so much for watching my review of Knives Out. I really appreciate you guys stopping by, and if you like the content, please don't forget to subscribe and like, comment if you want, all that standard YouTube stuff. It really helps me out. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you guys next time.